And thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox. We appreciate you hopping on the forecast today and joining us with your weather questions because we have the entire U.S. to talk about for storms today, anywhere from the plains out to the East Coast. And then we're also talking about the floods down in Texas. And we have some pictures to show you of those floods as well. So here's a look at your headlines for today. Yes, it is another very active storm day, from the hail that we got on Sunday, hail yesterday, high wind yesterday. All of those factors are possible in the forecast again for today. We are also watching the mid-Atlantic out on the East Coast for that severe weather threat, mainly for a wind threat here. We are expecting some downed trees, some downed power lines from potential microbursts and downbursts that are possible only in the mid-Atlantic, but also through places like Arkansas and even portions of Missouri. We'll talk about that risk as well. As always, put your questions in the comments section, and we'll get to those here in just a few minutes. But first, I want to go to what we saw yesterday. Many states impacted by those hailstones, as well as maybe even a tornado report up in North Dakota. We also had some hail reports across Minnesota and some really decent wind. Hey, do you see this right here? This is another thing that we could be seeing today. This is a linear line segment of storms, and what we see here is as it starts to bow out, do you see that like backwards C-shaped right there through Omaha? Talk about high wind. That's whenever we know. We don't even have to be told that there's high wind there. We can tell from the radar that we have high wind in this area. So yes, high wind across Omaha yesterday, and that started to dissipate as it went into places like Kansas City. Now, even down in places like Texas, we saw a lot of rain yesterday. Let's actually start down in Texas because they're finally getting some relief from all of that rain that they saw yesterday. They started to see that relief late last night, and they are dry right now. But I do know that ongoing search and rescues are continuing today. So let's go ahead and get a picture of the Kerr County Emergency Management. They posted this down in Kerr County, Texas, where we've seen all of that flooding. And some of the things that they're saying here is they're saying that their local teams, along with regional, state, and federal agencies, so we're not talking about FEMA, we're talking about the FBI here, are continuing to search for missing people. Hundreds of first responders in Kerr County continue to work to return and reunite family members. As of about 2 o'clock yesterday, 2 o'clock Central Time yesterday, 84 people were deceased in Kerr County, including 56 adults and 28 children. Unfortunately, identification of many of those children and adults are ongoing. They continue to write and share their deepest condolences with all affected by this tragedy, and an absolute tragedy that it is, unfortunately. They are continuing to search today, and they're also asking you to please keep your drones on the ground and out of this area of the river that is so swollen. They're also asking you to keep your boats out of this area as they continue their investigations as well. They want to make sure that they can do the job without anyone else getting in the way. So we, of course, our hearts go out to all of those impacted across Texas and across the U.S. by this tragedy. Now let's go back to the weather here. I want to go back up to some ongoing severe thunderstorms today because we do have a flood risk in some other areas across the country. What you're looking at now, zoom out a little here so you can see exactly what part of the country you're looking at. We've gone far outside of Texas. We're now looking at the southern side of New York right here, and we do have an ongoing severe thunderstorm warning right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at this warning and get more information on this severe thunderstorm warning. My assumption is that it's a marginal warning. Yes, it is. Okay, size hail, 60-mile-per-hour wind speeds, just barely over that severe threshold. Now, what this means for 130,000 people across Chester, Monroe, and Warwick is that you could see quarter-size hail and maybe some gusty winds every now and then. However, we are expecting some of those more impactful weather hazards later on today. Where is that at? Anywhere across the plains, anywhere from the state lines of Wyoming, Colorado, the Dakotas, and then all the way down to Kansas and Nebraska, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee. Can I go on? Yes, I can. We've got many states impacted by this risk for storms today. So comment where you're watching from so we can tailor this forecast exactly to where you are today, where you're watching for. We also have a fourth severe storm out to the east along the East Coast. We have that risk for high wind. Alrighty, looking at tomorrow, we have another risk for storms, 2 slight risks across the U.S. and another slight risk across the plains on Thursday. So it's just kind of day after day after day of storms here. What do we see right now? We see a lot of rain across Arkansas this morning, southern Texas, Louisiana. But for the most part, most of the plains are dry. Now, that dry air is going to help right now, is going to help storms later today. What does that mean? You're getting sunshine right now, right? It's hot across the plains. It's hot across the East Coast as well. What that's going to do is that's going to help to heat up the surface. And you guys know how this works, right? Heat rises, and what goes up must come down. And what we're going to see is we're going to see several microbursts, downbursts possible for today. What happens is that atmosphere holds all of that energy, and as it falls to the ground, it falls really, really fast. And as it hits the ground, it exerts all of that energy in the form of wind and heavy, heavy rain. That's why we're watching for those hazards of high wind and very heavy rain, potential flooding for today. But I got ahead of myself a little bit. Let's go back to your temperatures. 86 here in Oklahoma City, 90 degrees in Dallas, 92 out in Atlanta, a little bit cooler, sitting in the 70s in Charleston right now. Let's talk about hail first, and then we'll go into that wind threat for today. That hail threat is pretty isolated to the plains. We're talking about Oklahoma to South Dakota today. Where are we watching for some of the largest hail? Well, we're watching for those oranges and reds mix in this model here. So we're talking about that larger hail anywhere from South Dakota all the way down into western portions of Nebraska, Kansas, and northern Oklahoma. For your official hail trace hail forecast today, the largest hailstone, I brought it down a little bit. I went to ping pong ball size hail today. I really don't think that we're going to see too much above or larger than a ping pong ball size hailstone today. Could you get up to golf ball? Sure. I think that's all pretty relative though. Moving on to, where are we expecting those largest hailstones? I would say anywhere from the eastern side of Colorado to the western side of South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas. Once you get down into Oklahoma and Texas, maybe you could get $half size hail. I really think it's a pretty low chance. Colby, Kansas, that is where I'm saying probably has the best chance for large hail today. I was also looking at Kearney, Nebraska. I think you're right on the edge here. Whenever you get into Wichita and Oklahoma City, your hail sizes will most likely be a bit smaller, closer to the size of a quarter. Now, everyone today should be watching for those high wind concerns, okay? Those high winds will be likely for a good portion of the U.S. today. What we're watching for here, especially as we go a little bit farther out to the east, are what we call microbursts and downbursts. And again, what that leads to, you don't have to know that name, but you do know that what that leads to is strong wind and heavy rainfall. And one area I'm watching for that the most is between Little Rock and St. Louis. I do think that we could see some high winds in St. Louis today between about 65 and 70 miles an hour. Now, what about even stronger wind gusts? I pinpoint across the East Coast, anywhere from the northern side of Virginia all the way down to southern Pennsylvania. And what we're watching for in this area are stronger wind gusts, 75 to 80 miles an hour, specifically in the Baltimore area. So what we're watching for here is Maryland. You could see some pretty strong wind gusts. Now, what does that mean for you? Straight line winds? Well, what that means is if you've got enough rainfall, especially rain yesterday, maybe even more, the ground is very, very wet, right? All of that soil is really moist. Well, what that does is cleans it up quite a bit. You get a gust of wind, and all of your trees go toppling over really easily. So even the Storm Prediction Center today said that toppling trees down, power lines down, are possible with these storms today. We'll be watching this very, very closely because those high wind speeds are very possible in this area. Alrighty, moving on to that future radar. What about your timeline for all of this? Well, as you'd expect, it's only an afternoon and evening timeline here. Maybe into Nebraska, we could go a little bit later into the late night hours tonight. Let's take a look at those showers and storms tonight. Very, very isolated. The more we've gone on with these models, the less we want to put in Nebraska. You can see a few isolated storms popping up on the western side of Nebraska and South Dakota here. More widespread coverage as we head farther down to the south into places like Oklahoma and Texas. So let's bring you down there now. Let's go down to Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, where we are expecting more widespread showers and storms. As one group of storms starts to move out, that next one will start to move in. So we'll start with isolated storms later on this afternoon. As early as 2 o'clock this afternoon. It may seem a little sporadic. You could get a storm here, maybe a storm there, but then they'll start to cluster as we head into the evening hours, starting to die out and really losing a lot of that severity by about 9, 10 o'clock tonight. Now let's take you, I think we're going to the East Coast next. Oh, we're talking about our flood watch or flood outlook for today. So what you're looking at here is your excessive rainfall outlook. What that means is it means too much rain, too fast. Where does it go? It goes onto the streets. You've got a traffic issue, right? You've got a flooding issue. The level 2 risk, highlighted here in yellow, goes across eastern Oklahoma into Arkansas, southern Missouri, and out to the East Coast. Remember all of that rain that comes a little bit too fast? That's what we're watching for today. Out on the East Coast, we're watching for downbursts that could bring strong wind gusts and excessive rainfall, likely to knock over trees and power lines. Moving into Arkansas now, tall and slow-moving storms are likely across the eastern side of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri. And again, microbursts are possible in this area. What happens is that thunderstorm grows really, really tall, and once it collapses, it brings all of that wind down to the surface. That's whenever you get your strong wind gusts. And of course, heading down to Texas, because we still have a flood risk in central Texas today. It's a level 1, but what we're watching for here, isolated to scattered showers and storms. So maybe you get one here, maybe you get one here. It'll be pretty isolated for the most part. But since they are still moving pretty slowly, you could still get a lot of rain in a short amount of time. So that's what we're watching for in central Texas today. Now let's move on to the timeline of Texas. There you go. Again, pretty isolated for the most part today. At times, you can see more widespread coverage, like down to the south and out to the east, in places like Houston and just to the east of I-35 in Austin. And they're slow moving. These storms don't move very fast at all. We're seeing that out in Arkansas too. Pretty slow moving storms today. Now let's get to the East Coast, out on the East Coast. At times, you can see these start to line up in a linear fashion. Other times, storms will be pretty clustered. We'll just have to watch for both types of storm movement today. For the most part, again, isolated storms today through the afternoon and evening hours. We're expecting strong wind gusts and heavy rainfall. I've said that like 5 times already, so you should know your hazards for today. Let's check your questions. Do we have any questions on this Tuesday afternoon? Let's see, we've got a few questions. Colin asking, what does Omaha look like for Thursday? I think that's my next graphic. Perfect timing there. Omaha on Thursday, let's see. Here's Wednesday. There's Thursday. There you go. You've got a slight risk already for Omaha on Thursday. Man, you're right in the middle of that slight risk too. Let me tell you, it's a level 2, a slight risk for now. However, I do expect the Storm Prediction Center to upgrade this risk by the time we get today. What are we, like 72 hours out right now? We'll have more information on this storm day the closer and closer we get. So make sure you come back tomorrow and Thursday for an updated outlook storms for Thursday. I do expect to see some large hail in here and potentially even a tornado risk on Thursday as well. It's that time of year where hail and tornadoes are absolutely possible, but it depends on the time of day. It could become more a higher wind risk. It kind of depends on the time of day. Alrighty, future jet stream here. One thing that we have seen, I'm going to actually go back to the very beginning of this graphic. So what we've seen right here, we have a high pressure system, right? In the middle of this high pressure system, what we often see is clear skies, lots of sunshine, it's hot, it's dry in this area. On the outskirts of this high pressure system, what we see is a very stuck weather pattern, where storms will stay on this area, but they won't move very fast at all. And you'll probably see this pattern day after day after day. So if you're wondering, why do we just keep having storms in Texas over and over and over? You've got all of that moisture coming up from the Gulf, and you have this high pressure system that is keeping those storms in place. They have nowhere to go. This high pressure system is blocking them from moving anywhere, so they just stay in the same place. And they don't have any of those upper air, those strong upper winds to move them anywhere. So that's why we're kind of stuck in this pattern that we've seen over and over and over, of course, causing that devastating flooding down to the south. Moving on here, you can see that we're trying to get a little bit of motion where this high pressure system moves off to the west a little bit. And we've got a trough trying to work into the plains. So we could see more plains weather later in the week. Thursday is absolutely possible, maybe even Friday and Saturday. Let's talk about temperatures now. Yeah, your summertime temperatures, you're a lot warmer on the west coast and on the east coast. But thankfully, we need a break from that heat right in the center of the country. That's going to continue. Actually, let's take a look at your 6 to 10-day outlook here. So we're looking into the second week of July, the very end of the second week here, the 13th through the 17th. We get a break from the heat right through the center of the country. Meanwhile, on the west and on the east coast, temperatures are likely to be above average for this time of the year. So how you read this map is you say if your average is 80 in Washington, you are likely to be warmer than average from July 13th through the 17th. Same for the West Coast. Now, what really concerns me about these graphics is not only are we very hot on the West Coast, but we're also very dry out here as well. And that could contribute to the fire danger, not only right now, but as we head into the rest of summer. So we want to see that change. But right now, it looks like a very dry and hot theme is going on the West Coast, anywhere from Utah all the way out to Washington, Oregon, California, and Nevada. Alrighty, moving on to your 3-month temperature outlook. So we're talking about July, August, and September. Still looks hot. Yeah, we're not talking about your typical summertime heat. We're talking about warmer than average temperatures likely for the rest of your summer. And that's your forecast. Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox. We do a forecast every single weekday. We give you updates from weather that happened yesterday and the day before, and then we give you updates on what we expect to happen today. Trace has 17 meteorologists that are very, very into either making those forecasts or making hail, wind, and tornado maps as well. So we have a team of meteorologists that work on those hail, wind, and tornado maps, mapping almost in real time. If you're interested in a map, you can give us a call at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com, or you can head over to our website, hailtrace.com. If you're a weather enthusiast and you want to see updates on current storms that are happening, storm photos, storm forecasts, head over to our social media pages. Follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We post all the time on those pages. So thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and I'll see you back here same time, same place for your forecast tomorrow.